Pope Leo XIV's visit to the tomb of Pope Francis, a sacred moment for the Catholic Church. The early days of Pope Leo XIV's papacy have been marked by a series of significant moments that reflect both his reverence for the past and his vision for the future of the Church. One such poignant moment occurred at the Basilica of St. Mary Major, where the new pontiff prayed at the tomb of his predecessor, Pope Francis, solidifying his commitment to continuing the legacy of unity, peace, and devotion. Today, we dive deep into the significance of this sacred visit and the key moments that underscore its spiritual and historical importance. Number 1. The first visit outside the Vatican. Pope Leo XIV's visit to the Basilica of St. Mary Major is noteworthy not only for its reverence and significance but also because it followed his first trip outside the Vatican since his election to the papacy. This trip took him to the shrine of the Mother of Good Counsel in Genazzano, a place of profound historical and spiritual significance for the Catholic Church. Located just outside Rome, the Shrine of the Mother of Good Counsel is home to an ancient icon of the Blessed Virgin Mary, a revered image that has been a source of devotion and inspiration for Catholics for centuries. This pilgrimage was especially meaningful for Pope Leo XIV, who, during his time as Cardinal Robert Prevost, had developed a deep personal connection to the shrine. As Prior General of the Augustinian Order, he had visited the shrine in the past, and this visit was a continuation of his spiritual relationship with the place and the Blessed Mother. The decision to visit the shrine at the beginning of his papacy highlights Pope Leo XIV's commitment to seeking divine guidance as he began his new ministry. The Blessed Mother, under the title of the Mother of Good Counsel, is known for offering wisdom and direction to the faithful. By visiting this shrine, Pope Leo XIV demonstrated his desire to be guided by the counsel of the Virgin Mary, whose maternal care and intercession are central to the spiritual life of the Church. This pilgrimage also marked a moment of humility for the newly elected Pope, who took the time to pause, reflect, and pray for strength and wisdom as he stepped into the weighty responsibilities of leading the global Catholic community. In seeking Mary's guidance, Pope Leo XIV echoed the words of Mary at the wedding at Cana, "Do whatever he tells you," John 2 verse 5. This biblical passage reflects the trust and obedience that Pope Leo XIV hoped to embody in his ministry, asking for the Blessed Mother's intercession to help him fulfill his mission faithfully. Furthermore, Pope Leo XIV's visit to the Shrine of the Mother of Good Counsel was a symbolic gesture that connected him not only to the Church's Marian devotion but also to a long tradition of papal reverence for the Virgin Mary. Throughout history, many popes have sought solace and direction from the Virgin Mary, and Pope Leo XIV's pilgrimage continued this tradition, setting the tone for his papacy as one rooted in humility, prayer, and devotion. The visit to the Shrine of the Mother of Good Counsel was more than a mere trip, it was a spiritual milestone, marking the first of many steps Pope Leo XIV would take in his papacy, seeking divine guidance and affirming his devotion to the Virgin Mary. Number 2. A poignant stop at St. Mary Major. On his way back to the Vatican after his pilgrimage to the Shrine of the Mother of Good Counsel in Genazzano, Pope Leo XIV made a significant and reverent stop at the Basilica of St. Mary Major. This moment was not just another stop on his journey, but a deeply meaningful act of remembrance and respect for his predecessor, Pope Francis, who had passed away before he assumed the papacy. The Basilica of St. Mary Major, one of the 4 major basilicas of Rome, is a revered location in the Catholic faith, known for its rich history and deep connection to Marian devotion. For centuries, it has been a place where the faithful and the papacy have gathered to honor the Virgin Mary, as well as to reflect on the lives and legacies of past popes. This makes it an especially significant location for Pope Leo XIV's visit, as it was here that he would pause to reflect on Pope Francis' impact on the Church and the world. At the heart of this visit was Pope Leo XIV's prayer at the tomb of Pope Francis. The tomb, which had only recently been opened to the public, had become a place of pilgrimage for those wishing to pay tribute to the late pontiff, who had led the Church with compassion, humility, and a focus on social justice. Pope Francis' papacy had been marked by a deep concern for the marginalized and a commitment to fostering peace, unity, and dialogue between different cultures and faiths. For Pope Leo XIV, taking a moment to pray at the tomb of Pope Francis was a powerful act of honoring this legacy, recognizing the influence Pope Francis had on the Church and the world. This stop was also significant because it was Pope Leo XIV's first visit to Pope Francis' tomb since his election as Pope. In many ways, this moment symbolized the continuity of the papacy, where one pope honors the legacy of the other while carrying forward the mission entrusted to the Church. By pausing to pray at the tomb, Pope Leo XIV acknowledged the ongoing influence of Pope Francis' teachings, his example of pastoral care, and his tireless efforts to spread peace and understanding. For Pope Leo XIV, this moment at St. Mary Major was more than just a formal act of respect, it was a deeply personal time of reflection on the spiritual and pastoral journey he was about to embark upon. Pope Francis had been a beacon of hope and unity for the global Catholic community, and by praying at his tomb, Pope Leo XIV expressed his gratitude for the guidance that his predecessor had provided to the Church. Moreover, the visit to Pope Francis' tomb also carried a symbolic weight. It was an affirmation that Pope Leo XIV was committed to carrying on the legacy of his predecessor while also moving the Church forward with his own vision. It was a reminder that the papacy is not only about the individual who holds the office, but about the collective strength and continuity of the Church as a whole. By honoring Pope Francis in this way, Pope Leo XIV emphasized that the Church remains united, regardless of who is at its helm. In addition to his prayer at the tomb, Pope Leo XIV also took a moment to reflect on the larger history of the Church and the importance of the papacy in shaping the direction of the Catholic faith. His visit to St. Mary Major underscored the role of the Pope as a spiritual guide and servant leader, one who is called not only to uphold the traditions of the Church but to continue the work of fostering unity, compassion, and faith in a changing world. This stop at St. Mary Major was a poignant reminder of the legacy of Pope Francis and the shared mission of all the popes in the history of the Church. It highlighted the importance of honoring the past while embracing the future, a message that Pope Leo XIV would likely carry with him throughout his papacy. 3. The first visit to Pope Francis' tomb. The visit to the tomb of Pope Francis was an exceptionally poignant and significant moment for Pope Leo XIV, marking his first personal pilgrimage to honor the late pontiff since his election as pope. This stop was not only a gesture of respect but a deeply reflective act, as Pope Leo XIV sought to recognize and internalize the immense legacy left behind by his predecessor. For the Catholic Church, such moments of transition between papacies are marked by both continuity and change, with each pope building upon the spiritual foundation laid by those who came before them. Pope Francis had been a transformative figure in the Church, deeply influencing global Catholicism through his emphasis on humility, social justice, interfaith dialogue, and the care for the poor and marginalized. His papacy was marked by a relentless drive to address the pressing issues of the modern world, from poverty and climate change to global conflict and inequality. He challenged the Church to become more inclusive, reaching out to those who felt distant from the faith. His vision of a church for the poor and his calls for mercy and compassion resonated deeply with Catholics and non-Catholics alike, leaving an indelible mark on the global Catholic community. Pope Leo XIV's visit to Pope Francis' tomb was a moment of quiet reflection on this extraordinary legacy. As he stood before the final resting place of Pope Francis, Pope Leo XIV likely took a moment to reflect on the path he was about to walk as the new pontiff, knowing that he was inheriting a complex and profound legacy. His visit was not merely ceremonial, it was a moment of prayer and reverence, where Pope Leo XIV would have sought both guidance and inspiration as he considered the weight of the responsibilities that now rested on his shoulders. It was also a recognition of the immense contributions Pope Francis made to the Church and the world. Pope Francis' papacy had transcended the walls of the Vatican and had extended its reach to the world's most vulnerable populations, making his tomb a significant spiritual location for many Catholics. The tomb itself, located in the Basilica of St. Mary Major, had only recently been opened to the public, making it a place of pilgrimage for those wishing to honor the late Pope and reflect on his teachings. For Pope Leo XIV, this visit was more than an expression of gratitude, it was a moment to embrace the past while setting a course for the future. The act of praying at Pope Francis' tomb symbolized continuity in the papacy, where each pope's journey and vision is intrinsically tied to the broader mission of the Church. Pope Leo XIV's visit underscored his reverence for his predecessor's role in shaping the Church's present, while also recognizing the shared responsibility of the papacy to serve the faithful, promote peace, and continue the work of Christ on earth. This moment was also a symbol of humility, as Pope Leo XIV acknowledged that the papacy is not just an office to wield power but a vocation to serve. Pope Francis had often spoken of the need for the Pope to be a servant leader, and by praying at his tomb, Pope Leo XIV aligned himself with that philosophy. He acknowledged that the Church is not about individual glory but about continuing the work of the gospel with humility, dedication, and love for all of God's people. In addition, this visit to Pope Francis' tomb provided an opportunity for Pope Leo XIV to publicly affirm his commitment to continuing the mission of his predecessor. While every pope brings their unique personality and vision to the papacy, Pope Leo XIV's prayer at Pope Francis' tomb was a moment of respectful continuity, a pledge to remain faithful to the values that Pope Francis had championed, especially in the areas of mercy, compassion, and the protection of the vulnerable. This was an important signal to the Church and the world that, while change may come with each papacy, the core mission of the Church remains unwavering. For those gathered at St. Mary Major and the millions who would later hear of this visit, it was a deeply symbolic gesture. It was not just a moment of private reflection for Pope Leo XIV. It was a public affirmation of the Church's continuity, the unbroken chain of papal leadership that stretches back through the centuries. Pope Leo XIV's visit to Pope Francis' tomb was a reminder to all Catholics of the shared mission and legacy that binds each pope together, creating a living tradition of faith that transcends individual papacies. In essence, this visit was an act of reverence, recognition, and reflection, all while positioning Pope Leo XIV as a leader committed to both honoring the past and shaping the future of the Catholic Church. Number 4. Continuing the Marian tradition. A central moment of Pope Leo XIV's visit to St. Mary Major was his veneration of the revered icon of the Virgin Mary, Salus Populi Romani, health of the Roman people. This act was deeply symbolic, as it marked the continuation of a long-standing papal tradition of Marian devotion that has been integral to the spiritual life of the Catholic Church for centuries. By venerating this sacred image, Pope Leo XIV reaffirmed his personal devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary and highlighted her essential role in the Church's mission, both historically and in the contemporary world. The Salus Populi Romani icon is one of the most cherished and influential Marian images in Catholicism, dating back to the 6th century. It has been housed in the Basilica of St. Mary Major in Rome, one of the oldest and most significant Marian shrines in the world. The icon is traditionally attributed to St. Luke, and over the centuries, it has been associated with numerous miraculous events and acts of protection for the Roman people. For popes, this icon represents not only Marian intercession but also a symbol of the Church's profound connection to Mary as the Mother of the Church. Pope Leo XIV's homage to this icon was not just a personal act of piety, it was a profound statement of his commitment to continuing the Marian devotion that has defined the papacy throughout history. The relationship between the Pope and the Virgin Mary is rooted in deep theological and spiritual significance, as Mary is often seen as the Church's model of faith, humility, and maternal care for the people of God. This devotion to Mary has been a cornerstone of papal identity, stretching back to the earliest centuries of the Church. Popes have consistently invoked her intercession in times of crisis and have relied on her maternal protection to guide the Church through difficult periods. By venerating the Salus Populi Romani, Pope Leo XIV also participated in a tradition that has been upheld by nearly every pope in modern history. From Pope St. John XXIII to Pope St. John Paul II, each pope has recognized the importance of Marian devotion as a spiritual foundation for their papacy. This tradition is more than just an act of devotion, it is a recognition of the powerful role that Mary plays in the spiritual life of the Church and the world. For Pope Leo XIV, this moment was a reaffirmation of his reliance on Mary's intercession as he began his pontificate, especially as he faced the challenges and responsibilities of leading the global Catholic Church. Mary has often been described as the star of the sea, guiding the Church through turbulent waters. In his visit to the icon, Pope Leo XIV expressed his belief in Mary's ability to lead and protect the Church, particularly as the world faces increasing secularization, political turmoil, and social unrest. In an era where the Church must respond to numerous crises, both internal and external, Pope Leo XIV's act of devotion underscored the need for spiritual guidance and the grace that comes through the intercession of the Virgin Mary. Furthermore, Pope Leo XIV's reverence for Salus Populi Romani highlighted the continuity of papal leadership as each pope seeks to draw strength from the Mother of God. His visit was not simply an isolated act but a continuation of the practice of seeking divine assistance through Mary in fulfilling the Church's mission. For Pope Leo XIV, the image of Mary as the health of the Roman people symbolized not only the protection of the Roman Church but also the broader Catholic community worldwide. It was a reminder of the universal nature of the Church and the role that Mary plays in safeguarding all Christians, especially during challenging times. The Marian tradition also speaks to the Pope's unique role as the servant of the servants of God. By honoring Mary, Pope Leo XIV emphasized his own role in serving both the Church and the world, invoking the humility and obedience that Mary exemplified in her life. As the mother of Jesus, Mary is a model of service and submission to God's will. For Pope Leo XIV, praying before the Salus Populi Romani was an act of aligning himself with Mary's example of deep trust in God's plan and his commitment to leading the Church in a spirit of humility and service. Additionally, the veneration of this icon represents an intimate connection between the Pope and the faithful. Throughout history, many popes have turned to Mary for intercession in times of war, plague, and crisis, and Pope Leo XIV's act of homage signaled his intent to continue this tradition. It also served as a moment for the faithful to feel united with the Pope, as they, too, rely on the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary in their own lives. By visiting the Salus Populi Romani and publicly praying before it, Pope Leo XIV invited the Church to join him in seeking the protection and guidance of Mary. This act of devotion was also significant because it reinforced the Pope's role as a spiritual leader who deeply understands the power of prayer and intercession in the life of the Church. By aligning his papacy with Marian devotion, Pope Leo XIV showed his desire to follow in the footsteps of past popes who have placed their trust in Mary's guidance. It was an affirmation that, despite the changes and challenges that each papacy may face, the devotion to Mary remains an eternal constant, a source of comfort, strength, and inspiration. Pope Leo XIV's visit to St. Mary Major and his veneration of the Salus Populi Romani icon was a powerful and symbolic act that reinforced the Marian tradition at the heart of the papacy. It was a public declaration of his reliance on Mary's intercession as he navigates the complexities of leading the Church. This gesture not only honored the past but also set the tone for his papacy, reminding the world that, in times of both triumph and crisis, the Church can always turn to the Mother of God for guidance, protection, and strength. Number 5. Remembering Pope Francis on Divine Mercy Sunday. The first visit of Pope Leo XIV to the tomb of his predecessor, Pope Francis, took place on a profoundly significant occasion, Divine Mercy Sunday. This day, which falls on the second Sunday of Easter, is dedicated to the celebration of God's infinite mercy, a cornerstone of Christian faith and a central theme in Pope John Paul II's papacy. The decision to visit the tomb of Pope Francis on this solemn and sacred day underscored the deep spiritual connection Pope Leo XIV feels toward his predecessor, as well as his recognition of the grace and mercy that marked Pope Francis' leadership and legacy. Divine Mercy Sunday was instituted by Pope John Paul II in 2000, in response to the revelations of Saint Faustina Kowalska, a Polish nun who received visions of Christ urging devotion to his divine mercy. Since then, the day has held special significance for Catholics worldwide as a time to reflect on God's mercy and forgiveness. For Pope Leo XIV, this visit to Pope Francis' tomb on such a spiritually rich day was an intentional act of remembrance and reverence, acknowledging the profound impact Pope Francis had on the Church and the world. At the time of the visit, Cardinal Robert Prevost, before he became Pope Leo XIV, had joined his fellow cardinals in prayer at the tomb of Pope Francis, marking the first public instance of him paying respects to the late Pope. The choice of Divine Mercy Sunday for this visit was especially meaningful, given that Pope Francis had made mercy a central theme of his own papacy. Pope Francis' call for mercy, compassion, and forgiveness was evident in his actions and his numerous teachings on social justice, the care for the poor, and the need to welcome those on the margins of society. He continually emphasized the boundless mercy of God and the need for the Church to embody that mercy in its dealings with others. For Pope Leo XIV, returning to the tomb of Pope Francis on this day was not just a ceremonial gesture but a profound act of continuing the work of mercy that had been central to his predecessor's pontificate. This earlier visit to Pope Francis' tomb also set a clear tone for Pope Leo XIV's approach to his new papacy. It demonstrated his deep reflection on the legacies of those who came before him, particularly the emphasis on mercy that Pope Francis had championed throughout his tenure. As Pope Leo XIV began to take on the mantle of leadership, he was mindful of the pastoral example Pope Francis had set, one that prioritized compassion, reconciliation, and the embrace of all people, particularly those in need. Divine Mercy Sunday, with its focus on the love and forgiveness of God, provided a fitting backdrop for Pope Leo XIV's first prayerful encounter with the tomb of Pope Francis, offering an opportunity for him to seek divine guidance and grace as he embarked on his papacy. The act of visiting Pope Francis' tomb on Divine Mercy Sunday not only honored Pope Francis' legacy but also highlighted the continuity of the Church's focus on mercy and reconciliation. For Pope Leo XIV, this visit was a reminder that mercy is a core pillar of the Church's mission, a mission that Pope Francis had shaped so profoundly. As Pope Leo XIV prayed at the tomb, he reflected not only on Pope Francis' personal example but also on the greater message of mercy that has been passed down through the papacy. It was a moment of spiritual renewal, a time to recommit to the path of love, forgiveness, and healing that Pope Francis had so consistently called the Church to follow. Additionally, the choice of Divine Mercy Sunday as the day for this visit emphasized the spiritual significance of the moment. As the faithful celebrate the grace of God's mercy on this day, Pope Leo XIV's visit served as a public declaration of his desire to continue the work of mercy in his papacy. The visit was a clear signal to the Church that Pope Leo XIV would build upon the foundation of mercy laid by Pope Francis, while also recognizing the immense challenges facing the Church in a rapidly changing world. Pope Francis had laid the groundwork for a Church that embraces the vulnerable, the marginalized, and the lost, and Pope Leo XIV's visit to the tomb was a moment of solemn reflection on how to further that mission. The timing of this visit, on a day dedicated to the Divine Mercy, also symbolized Pope Leo XIV's deep personal commitment to living out the message of mercy in his own ministry. It served as a reminder that the papacy is not merely an administrative role but a spiritual calling to be a vessel of God's mercy to the world. Through this visit, Pope Leo XIV expressed his humility and desire to follow in the footsteps of Pope Francis, whose own papacy had been marked by an unwavering focus on mercy and compassion. Moreover, Pope Leo XIV's visit to the tomb on Divine Mercy Sunday also spoke to the broader Catholic understanding of the communion of saints, the belief that the faithful, both living and deceased, are united in Christ. By praying at the tomb of Pope Francis on this sacred day, Pope Leo XIV not only acknowledged the personal legacy of his predecessor but also affirmed the unity of the Church across time. It was an act of spiritual solidarity, recognizing that Pope Francis' influence continues to guide and inspire the Church, even after his death. Pope Leo XIV's visit to Pope Francis' tomb on Divine Mercy Sunday was a powerful act of remembrance, reflection, and continuity. It highlighted the importance of mercy in the Church's mission and affirmed Pope Leo XIV's desire to carry forward the legacy of Pope Francis. The visit symbolized a profound moment in the early days of Pope Leo XIV's papacy, a moment that tied together the themes of mercy, compassion, and reconciliation that had defined Pope Francis' pontificate and set the stage for the new Pope's approach to leading the Church in a time of both continuity and change. Number 6. The significance of Pope Francis' tomb being open to the public. The opening of Pope Francis' tomb to the public was a deeply significant moment for the Catholic Church, allowing the faithful to reflect on the life, legacy, and ministry of one of the most influential popes in modern history. This act of openness and accessibility is emblematic of Pope Francis' inclusive and pastoral approach, which prioritized transparency, humility, and accessibility to all. By allowing the public to visit his tomb, Pope Francis symbolically demonstrated his desire to remain present and connected with the people of the Church, even after his passing. It was a fitting testament to his lifelong commitment to service, compassion, and closeness to the people he led. For Pope Leo XIV, the decision to visit Pope Francis' tomb after it was open to the public was both a spiritual and symbolic gesture, reflecting a desire to honor his predecessor's inclusive vision. Pope Leo XIV's visit was a continuation of the papal tradition of reverence for past popes, but it also underscored the importance of Pope Francis' commitment to ensuring that the Church's leaders remain accessible and present to the faithful, particularly during times of mourning and transition. In opening the tomb to the public, Pope Francis invited people into his final resting place, allowing them the opportunity to offer prayers and seek inspiration from his example of selfless service. The timing of the tomb's opening was also significant, coming shortly after Pope Leo XIV's election. For the newly elected pope, visiting Pope Francis' tomb at this particular moment carried special weight. It was not just an act of honoring a predecessor but also a reminder of the pastoral legacy Pope Leo XIV was inheriting, a legacy that prioritized the pastoral care of all people, a core tenet of Pope Francis' papacy. The openness of the tomb, allowing anyone who sought it the opportunity to pay their respects, was a visible continuation of Pope Francis' invitation to all people, regardless of status or background, to encounter Christ through the Church's leaders. Pope Leo XIV's decision to visit the tomb thus communicated his intention to continue this approach of inclusivity and accessibility in his own papacy. Moreover, the opening of Pope Francis' tomb was symbolic of the continuity of the Church's mission. Pope Francis was known for his outreach to the marginalized, his emphasis on mercy, and his efforts to reform the Vatican's governance to make it more transparent and accountable. His tomb being open to the public was a continuation of these values, a final gesture inviting the faithful into his life and ministry. The act of making the tomb accessible is also in keeping with Pope Francis' own love for the people of the Church. It was as if he were continuing to serve them, even after his death. For Pope Leo XIV, who would now be the one to guide the faithful, this gesture of accessibility would serve as a powerful reminder of the openness Pope Francis embodied throughout his papacy. In addition to the symbolic significance of the tomb's opening, it also created an opportunity for spiritual reflection and connection. By making the tomb available to the public, the Church invited the faithful to reflect on Pope Francis' teachings and ministry. Pilgrims and visitors who came to the basilica to pray at the tomb of Pope Francis could not only offer their petitions but also connect with the profound message of love, mercy, and compassion that defined his pontificate. Pope Leo XIV's visit to the tomb was, in part, an acknowledgement of the ongoing spiritual significance of Pope Francis' ministry, one that continues to inspire Catholics around the world. By allowing the faithful to visit the tomb and reflect on Pope Francis' legacy, the Church ensured that his influence remained felt throughout the global Catholic community. This openness to the faithful aligns with Pope Leo XIV's own vision for the Church. He had already demonstrated a commitment to an inclusive and transparent papacy during his visit to the Shrine of the Mother of Good Counsel, where he sought the guidance of the Blessed Mother. This theme of accessibility and openness to the faithful was woven into his first public acts as Pope, and his visit to Pope Francis' tomb deepened this commitment. By recognizing and respecting the legacy of Pope Francis, Pope Leo XIV reinforced the idea that leadership in the Church is not about isolation or separation from the people but about being present and engaged with the faithful. He understood that, just as Pope Francis had done, he must lead by example, open, humble, and deeply connected to the people of God. The public opening of Pope Francis' tomb also underscored the idea of the communion of saints. Catholics believe that all members of the Church, both living and deceased, are united in Christ, and this belief was powerfully reflected in the opportunity for the faithful to honor Pope Francis at his final resting place. His tomb, open to all who wish to visit, symbolized that Pope Francis' ministry and influence continue to unite the Church in prayer and remembrance. For Pope Leo XIV, visiting the tomb was a recognition of this communion and a moment of spiritual unity with both Pope Francis and the broader Catholic community. Additionally, the opening of Pope Francis' tomb also spoke to the growing tradition of making papal relics and sites of significant historical and religious importance accessible to the public. In many ways, Pope Francis set a new precedent in this regard, with his emphasis on open, personal engagement with the people he served. Pope Leo XIV, by honoring this tradition, further cemented the relationship between the papacy and the faithful, showing that the Church's leaders are meant to be a bridge between the divine and the human, constantly engaging with the lives of ordinary people. In summary, the opening of Pope Francis' tomb to the public was a significant and deeply spiritual event. It allowed the faithful to remember and reflect on the legacy of one of the most beloved popes in modern history. For Pope Leo XIV, visiting the tomb was both an act of reverence and a symbolic gesture to continue the inclusive and pastoral leadership Pope Francis had championed. It was a moment of spiritual renewal and an affirmation that the papacy remains, above all, a ministry to serve the people of God with humility, accessibility, and love. Through this act of openness, Pope Leo XIV was making it clear that the tradition of welcoming all people into the life of the Church would continue under his papacy. Number 7. A symbol of papal continuity and unity. Pope Leo XIV's visit to St. Mary Major was not just an act of personal devotion or a tribute to his predecessor, Pope Francis. It was a powerful symbol of the continuity and unity that are central to the papacy and to the Catholic Church itself. This visit reflected Pope Leo XIV's deep understanding of the role the papacy plays in maintaining the Church's unity across time and space. As he stood before the tomb of Pope Francis, Pope Leo XIV was making a clear statement to the global faithful, that, although the papacy had passed from one pope to another, the Church's mission and vision remain unchanged. In that sacred moment, Pope Leo XIV embraced the legacy of Pope Francis while reaffirming his own commitment to guide the Church forward on the same path of mercy, humility, and outreach that had defined his predecessor's pontificate. Papal continuity is essential in the Catholic Church, as the Pope is seen as the spiritual leader and guide of the entire Christian community. The papacy, by its very nature, is meant to transcend individual personalities and to represent the enduring, unbroken leadership of the Church throughout history. For Pope Leo XIV, his visit to St. Mary Major was a deliberate act of linking his papacy to the long and venerable history of the Catholic Church. By paying homage to Pope Francis at this pivotal moment in his papacy, Pope Leo XIV showed that the Church's teachings, its commitment to the gospel, and its pastoral mission would continue to be the guiding principles under his leadership. This act was an affirmation that the Church's essential unity was not dependent on the personality of any one pope but on the shared mission of guiding the faithful in love and truth. At the heart of this continuity is the ongoing call to unity within the global Church. Pope Leo XIV's visit to St. Mary Major was not merely about remembering Pope Francis, but about reinforcing the shared mission that binds all Catholics together, regardless of nationality, culture, or background. Just as Pope Francis worked tirelessly to build bridges among people of different faiths and to engage with the wider world, Pope Leo XIV, in making this visit, was signaling that the Church's commitment to unity would remain a cornerstone of his papacy. This unity was not only about theological or doctrinal continuity but also about fostering a sense of common purpose and belonging within the Church. For Pope Leo XIV, continuing Pope Francis' emphasis on unity would be a central aspect of his papacy, as he sought to create a Church where all believers, whether they were clergy, laity, or religious, felt connected to the Church's mission and to one another. The visit also underscored Pope Leo XIV's desire to build upon the solid foundation that Pope Francis had laid during his papacy. Pope Francis had made extraordinary strides in renewing the Church's outreach to the marginalized, promoting interfaith dialogue, advocating for social justice, and reforming Vatican structures to ensure greater transparency and accountability. Pope Leo XIV, by visiting St. Mary Major and offering his prayers at Pope Francis' tomb, was publicly acknowledging the profound impact that Pope Francis had on the Church and the world. But in doing so, he was also expressing his intention to build upon this foundation, using it as a springboard to address the challenges that the Church faces in the modern world. He understood that continuity in the papacy does not mean simply maintaining the status quo, but rather ensuring that the Church's mission evolves in ways that are both faithful to the gospel and responsive to the needs of the global faithful. By honoring Pope Francis, Pope Leo XIV was also acknowledging the historical importance of the role of the papacy in shaping the course of world events. Throughout history, popes have been leaders not only of the Church but of the wider world, guiding political, social, and cultural movements with their moral authority. In visiting St. Mary Major, Pope Leo XIV made clear his understanding that the papacy is an office that carries profound responsibility, one that transcends the personal actions of any one pope and instead reflects the broader spiritual mission of the Church. In this way, his visit was not just about continuity in the sense of maintaining the same policies or approaches, but about the continuity of the papal office itself, which carries with it the weight of history and the responsibility to lead the Church with wisdom, compassion, and vision. Pope Leo XIV's visit also demonstrated the continuity of the Church's commitment to the Blessed Virgin Mary, a central figure in Catholic devotion and theology. St. Mary Major, one of the most important Marian shrines in the world, is a symbol of the Church's deep and abiding reverence for Mary as the Mother of God. Pope Francis had frequently invoked Mary's intercession and example during his papacy, and Pope Leo XIV, by making a pilgrimage to this holy site, reinforced the Church's ongoing Marian devotion. The image of the Virgin Mary, as depicted in the icon of Salus Populi Romani housed in the basilica, has been a source of comfort and inspiration for popes throughout history. By paying homage to this sacred image, Pope Leo XIV not only honored Pope Francis' devotion to Mary but also expressed his own commitment to following the guidance and protection of the Blessed Mother as he navigated the complexities of leading the Church into the future. In addition to its spiritual significance, the visit to St. Mary Major had a personal dimension for Pope Leo XIV, marking a moment of reflection on his own journey as Pope. Just as the tomb of Pope Francis served as a reminder of the continuity of the papacy, so too did the basilica serve as a reminder of the enduring spiritual legacy of past popes. As he stood in prayer at this holy site, Pope Leo XIV was reminded of the great responsibility he had inherited, but also of the incredible opportunity to build upon the work of his predecessors. His visit was not just an act of reverence but also a moment of personal commitment to lead the Church with the same humility, compassion, and sense of mission that had characterized Pope Francis' papacy. Pope Leo XIV's visit to St. Mary Major, then, was much more than a simple act of honoring his predecessor. It was a profound statement about the continuity of the papacy, the unbroken chain of leadership that links all popes, past, present, and future. It was a reaffirmation of the Catholic Church's commitment to unity and its ongoing mission to spread the love and teachings of Christ to all corners of the world. In making this visit, Pope Leo XIV set the tone for his own papacy, signaling his desire to build upon the legacy of Pope Francis while remaining true to the timeless mission of the Church. Number 8. The Holy See Press Office shares the sacred update. The Holy See Press Office played a pivotal role in ensuring that the momentous visit of Pope Leo XIV to the tomb of Pope Francis did not go unnoticed, underscoring the deep spiritual and symbolic significance of the occasion. In their coverage, the press office highlighted not only the personal act of devotion but also the broader implications of the visit for the future of the papacy and the Church. Through their official communication, the Holy See signaled to the world that Pope Leo XIV was already forging his own path while deeply honoring the traditions that have defined the papacy for centuries. This carefully orchestrated update from the press office was more than just an announcement, it was an affirmation of the ongoing continuity of the papacy and its enduring role in guiding the global Catholic community. By reporting on the visit, the Holy See not only informed the faithful of Pope Leo XIV's actions but also framed those actions within the larger context of papal leadership. The timing of this coverage was particularly significant as it demonstrated Pope Leo XIV's awareness of the weight of his role and the expectations that come with it, especially in relation to his predecessor, Pope Francis. The press office's coverage was a statement that the new pope, while charting his own course, is committed to following the principles of his predecessors and staying firmly rooted in the rich traditions of the Church. The visit to Pope Francis' tomb was one of Pope Leo XIV's first acts as pontiff, making it a moment of profound reflection not only for him but also for the Church as a whole. By publicly sharing the details of the visit, the Holy See was providing the global faithful with a moment of spiritual connection to the new pope. In reporting on this act of reverence, the Holy See reinforced the message that Pope Leo XIV's papacy would be one that combines the deep respect for the traditions of the Church with a forward-looking vision for the future. The press office's release was a reminder to Catholics worldwide that the Pope's actions are symbolic of the greater mission of the Church, to maintain a sense of continuity, unity, and faith in the midst of an ever-changing world. The decision to highlight the visit through the official channels of the Holy See also emphasized the Pope's role as a spiritual leader who leads not only through his words but also through his actions. The press office's coverage reflected the Pope's understanding of the importance of public moments, which are often seen as reflective of his broader vision and leadership style. In this case, the act of visiting Pope Francis' tomb became a statement of papal humility, continuity, and commitment to the Church's foundational mission, which the Holy See was eager to share with the world. Through this sacred update, the Holy See also offered a sense of transparency and openness to the faithful. It was an invitation to participate in a moment that was not just an isolated event but part of the larger narrative of the Church's journey. By reporting on the visit in a manner that highlighted its spiritual depth and symbolic significance, the press office ensured that the faithful could reflect on Pope Leo XIV's actions and understand their deeper meaning. The visit, captured in this report, became not just a private moment of prayer but a shared moment of unity and devotion for Catholics around the world. The Holy See's decision to share this update also reinforced Pope Leo XIV's commitment to establishing a transparent and accessible papacy. In an age where information travels rapidly and the world is increasingly interconnected, the way the Church communicates its activities to the global audience has become an essential part of its outreach. Pope Leo XIV's visit, conveyed through the press, illustrated his understanding of the importance of modern communication tools in reaching the faithful and maintaining the Church's relevance in the world. His actions, as reported by the Holy See Press Office, were not just for those in the Vatican, they were for Catholics everywhere, ensuring that the global Church remained united in prayer and purpose. Furthermore, the press office's update also indicated the significance of Pope Leo XIV's early gestures in establishing his papacy. By making a public visit to the tomb of Pope Francis and ensuring it was reported widely, Pope Leo XIV set the tone for the future of his pontificate. He signaled that he would not only carry forward the legacies of those who came before him but also use his position to bring the Church closer to the people, emphasizing the values of humility, reflection, and spiritual depth. The Holy See's timely and thoughtful coverage was a testament to the weight of this moment in the life of the Church, a moment that would set the course for the new Pope's tenure. The update also reinforced the idea that while Pope Leo XIV was deeply respectful of the traditions of the papacy, he was also bringing his own unique vision to his role. The decision to highlight his first visit to Pope Francis' tomb was a subtle but powerful reminder that Pope Leo XIV, as a newly elected pontiff, was building on the foundation laid by Pope Francis, even as he sought to address the challenges of the modern world. In this sense, the visit was not only a moment of honoring Pope Francis but also a powerful gesture of renewal and continuity, which the Holy See made clear to the world. The Holy See Press Office's update on Pope Leo XIV's visit to the tomb of Pope Francis served as an important communication tool that provided the faithful with a sense of connection to their new pope. It symbolized both continuity and renewal within the Church and set the tone for Pope Leo XIV's papacy, one that would embrace the traditions of the Church while also leading it into a new era with humility, transparency, and a deep commitment to the teachings of Christ. Through the press office's coverage, this sacred moment became a shared experience for Catholics worldwide, reaffirming the strength and unity of the Church as it moved forward under new leadership. Pope Leo XIV prayer at the tomb of Pope Francis, a reflection of hope and peace. Pope Leo XIV's visit to the tomb of Pope Francis stands as a deeply significant moment in the early days of his papacy, offering a glimpse into the direction in which he intends to lead the Church. This sacred act of prayer was not merely a gesture of reverence for a predecessor, but a profound moment of reflection and a powerful statement about his vision for the future of the Catholic Church. The significance of this act goes beyond personal devotion, encapsulating themes of continuity, peace, and spiritual unity, which are essential to the identity of the Church as it faces the challenges of the modern world. One of the primary themes expressed through Pope Leo XIV's visit is the respect he has for Pope Francis and the legacy of peace that his predecessor cultivated. By choosing to visit Pope Francis' tomb early in his pontificate, Pope Leo XIV made a statement of both homage and solidarity, acknowledging the immense contributions that Pope Francis made to the global Church and the world at large. Pope Francis' ministry was marked by an emphasis on mercy, inclusion, and outreach to marginalized communities. In praying at his tomb, Pope Leo XIV underscored his desire to continue these efforts, ensuring that the values of peace and compassion that defined Pope Francis' papacy would remain at the heart of his own mission. However, Pope Leo XIV's visit was not only a nod to his predecessor, it also symbolized the continuity of the papacy itself. The papacy, as an institution, is not merely about individual leaders but is part of a living tradition that spans centuries. Through his prayer at the tomb of Pope Francis, Pope Leo XIV reflected the idea that while leadership in the Church may change, the fundamental mission of the papacy remains constant: to lead the faithful with humility, wisdom, and spiritual clarity. This act was a subtle but powerful reminder that the papacy, with its rich history, is a continual journey, constantly evolving while remaining firmly anchored in the teachings and example of those who have come before. In addition to honoring Pope Francis, Pope Leo XIV's prayer at the tomb also reflected his commitment to Marian devotion, a cornerstone of Catholic tradition. His deep reverence for the Virgin Mary was clearly evident throughout his visit, as he had also paid tribute to the iconic image of Salus Populi Romani earlier. For Pope Leo XIV, the Virgin Mary represents the guiding light of faith, the one who intercedes for the faithful in times of trouble, offering comfort and hope. This devotion to Mary, which has been a hallmark of papal leadership for centuries, was further solidified in Pope Leo XIV's visit to Pope Francis' tomb, where he not only honored his predecessor but also invoked the protection of the Blessed Mother. It was a powerful symbol that the Church's future will be one of both strong leadership and unwavering spiritual support. The visit also reflected a deep recognition of the challenges the Church faces in the modern world. In a time of rapid change and uncertainty, Pope Leo XIV's actions suggest that while he is determined to address contemporary issues and lead the Church into a new era, he is equally committed to preserving the Church's foundational values. The visit to Pope Francis' tomb was an act of grounding, reminding the faithful that no matter how much the world changes, the Church's mission of peace, unity, and salvation remains unchanged. The prayer at Pope Francis' tomb was not just a personal act of devotion, it was a public declaration that Pope Leo XIV intends to build upon the past while guiding the Church forward with a steady hand. Moreover, the symbolism of Pope Leo XIV's visit extended beyond the walls of St. Mary Major and the tomb of Pope Francis. It was a moment of connection between the past, present, and future of the Catholic Church. It was a reminder that the papacy, though marked by different faces and approaches over time, is ultimately one unified mission to serve and lead God's people. The faithful around the world, watching and reflecting on this act, would have seen it as a sign of hope, a message that the Church, though facing unprecedented challenges, remains grounded in faith, tradition, and the love of Christ. The broader implications of Pope Leo XIV's prayer at the tomb also underscore the importance of continuity and unity within the Church, two themes that are central to his papacy. By invoking the legacy of Pope Francis and reaffirming his own commitment to the Church's mission, Pope Leo XIV is reinforcing the idea that the papacy is a shared journey, one that transcends individual leaders. The message to the faithful is clear. While each pope brings their own unique gifts and vision to the papacy, they are always part of a larger narrative, a narrative of faith that has been passed down for generations and will continue to guide the Church for generations to come. Furthermore, Pope Leo XIV's visit to Pope Francis' tomb is a call to action for Catholics around the world to reflect on their own role within the Church. Just as Pope Leo XIV is committed to building on the legacy of Pope Francis, the faithful are invited to do the same in their own lives, to embrace the values of peace, mercy, and unity while remaining steadfast in their commitment to the gospel message. In this sense, the visit was not only an act of personal devotion by the Pope but also an invitation to the global Church to engage in a collective effort to preserve and spread the message of Christ. Pope Leo XIV's visit to the tomb of Pope Francis represents a moment of deep reflection, reverence, and hope for the future of the Church. Through this act, Pope Leo XIV affirms the continuity of the papacy, honors the legacy of Pope Francis, and signals his own commitment to leading the Church with humility, compassion, and a deep faith in the teachings of Christ. It is a moment that invites all Catholics to reflect on their own faith journey, while also looking forward to the future with hope and confidence, knowing that the Church, though facing many challenges, is always guided by the hand of the Blessed Mother and the unchanging love of Christ.